Well, hello everybody. It's Chris Care, and I had planned to do two separate videos, but under the circumstances, I'm going to sit up straight and present myself a little more abruptly, I guess. Uh, but I'm going to try to wrap all this into one, so this might take a little bit longer than I planned, but it should still be a fairly short. Well, there we go. Technical difficulties already underway. Let me get rid of that. And there we go. We're back. Odd. All right. How's that? Does that work for everybody? Great. So, again, I'm Chris Care. I have a couple of things that I want to talk about, and they do tie together somewhat. But I had, as I said, I'd planned to kind of separate them out. And in case you're wondering, I feel a little like the crab from Moana, two eyeballs on two different sides. This side, I happen to be talking to my YouTube folks. This side, I happen to be talking to my Facebook folks. So if I can try to get you guys just a little bit closer together, maybe that'll work better. Hey, I can stare at both of you at the same time. Awesome. So a few days ago, I shared a video about the reintroduction, I think it was in 1996, of 14 wolves into the Yellowstone National Park. Now, 14, not a big number when you consider the millions and millions and millions of other animals that are living in Yellowstone and make Yellowstone their home. In particular, one of the challenges that Yellowstone had was that the population of deer had gotten so big and so dominant that they simply ate everything green that was available to them. And as a result, they had a whole variety of different problems. But they may not necessarily have even been aware of exactly how big those problems really were until they saw the impact of these 14 wolves. Time passes. The deer, now that the wolves are there, they change their habits. They go hang out elsewhere. That means there's less chewing on the plants. The plants get to take a foothold. They get to grow. Some of them turn into trees. The trees grow. Now you have birds coming back. You have beaver coming back. You have muskrat coming back. You have lots of species that wouldn't ordinarily be there. You have eagles and hawks. You have reptiles. You have all sorts of things that had lived there previously, but once the deer kind of took over, they just didn't really have anything to eat or do. So the wolves changed the players in the local environment. 14 animals changed everything about that environment. It changed the plant life. It changed the trees. It changed the animal species that were there. But it did one better. Those 14 wolves then, because of the impact that they had with the vegetation coming back, that stopped soil erosion that had become widespread in that area. Because now the vegetation held on, right? It kind of limited that erosion. Then the trees managed to do a little bit more. So the banks solidified. The riverbanks solidified. Now you had rivers that were running deeper and narrower and pooling more often. So now you have different species that are going to engage in that as a result. All of that is directly attributable to the reintroduction of one species and a small number of members of that species at that. One small change literally changed the course of rivers in Yellowstone National Park. I want you to think about that. A huge chunk of this planet in a context is being altered by 14 animals. Now we look at where we are today, and I've sworn I'm not getting into this in any depth, but I can't help but hear lots and lots of people asking me for what my assessments are, what my thoughts are, what my assessments from a security point of view are, what my assessments are from a political point of view. And I've said many times, I'm not entering into the political discussion. As much as I possibly can, I'm staying away from it. I do not see lots of positive in engaging in the political discussion because nobody wants to hear any contrarian opinions anymore. They don't want to hear. They often don't want to hear opinions that agree with them. There's no win in that discussion. But I can talk about it in this context. If one small change was able to change the course of rivers, plural, in Yellowstone National Park, what could one small change that we do today do to change the course of human behavior, to change the course of how we treat each other? We can let the predators run amok. We can let the, in this case, the deer, that the masses run amok. Or we can make a change ourselves. Small, barely perceptible change that changes how everybody else interacts with us. One small change changed the course of rivers. What could one small change with us do to change how we relate to each other as human beings? And how we, as human beings, interact with every aspect of the world around us, including, of course, law enforcement. That's something that I think deserves some really serious thought. I don't know that it needs a whole lot of discussion because it's what we personally do. I don't know that that needs a lot of discussion because if you don't see that there's something going on, regardless of whether you're on a side or not, you kind of have to see that there's something going on. What are you going to do as a tiny little change that makes a world of difference? It's an interesting thought, and it could really help us solve this multi-tentacled problem that has caused so much unrest and hurt, right? We'll leave it at that. Now, that's the social side of this discussion. But as you know, most of what I'm going to talk about is about business. Likewise, in your business, if you're struggling because you're in a highly competitive market, or your clients keep eating away at your profits, so you never really get a chance to grow, cash flow is always behind because you have problems in getting the right members of your community in line to do business with you. I'm pretty sure we've all experienced something like that as entrepreneurs. Even as business professionals, you often find that the same kind of an issue happens over and over and over again. So what small change could dramatically impact exactly what your circumstances are providing you as your environment? What change to your environment can produce a massive change to your business? Just like the wolves being introduced to Yellowstone had a massive change to their environment and literally to their lives and how they benefited as a result. The whole park benefited, not just the wolves. How do you get to emulate that for your business? Sometimes it takes innovation, introducing something new to your world. Sometimes it takes evolution. You need to change, and there needs to be some transformation that goes with it. Sometimes you need to adapt. You're not really making a big change, but you're shifting a little bit, right? Sometimes you need to use that dreadful word pivot and change your direction. There are lots of ways that you can make a tiny little change and have dramatic impact. A few years ago, I was exposed to a presentation that talked about a simple change in imagery in the banner of a sales letter. In Europe, in England actually, there was a campaign. It was for a medical company. And so they had a banner that had a bunch of doctors with stethoscopes and nurses and whatnot. And then they had a different one where they took all that out and they simply put a banner with a white background and blue snowflakes on it. Now, as an ad person, an ad agency, whatever, normally you want the alignment, right? You want people who are aligned with your product or service to recognize that that's what you're doing. But in this case, they found they had I think it was a 3,800% higher result, like ROI, on the campaign when they used the snowflake banner rather than when they used the doctor banner. They used exactly the same text all the way through. Now think about that. You've got a 3,800% improvement when you take the doctors out of the image. It's not a big change. All the text is the same. All the formatting is the same. Everything's the same. All they changed is one image. Give another example. And it was some egregious, dramatic ROI change too. And all they did was change the headline. Same imagery. Now they changed the headline. Different campaign, different companies involved. But the point I'm getting at is the impact you have with just a small change, even in a business case, can be extraordinary. Which brings us to our little surprise, our little thing that I'm just kind of trying to catch up to as well. So my brother and I were working on some technology to help him have better results with his Name That Tune program. He's trying to do more and more of it online, have more access to more people so everybody can play a little more. And the technology is not working out as we'd hoped. The first few times it worked just fine. Now it's not working. We can't tell the difference. And so it's got its own problems, right? And as we're doing that, he's finding new technologies that allow us to do a lot more interesting, cool, and fun things for podcasters, for TV shows, for subject matter experts that they normally wouldn't even have access to. And while he's doing that, I'm finding ways to get that content the most distribution possible. And for just a little more budget than most experts really have in pocket change, we figured out how to have some fantastic quality product. Kind of for nickels and dimes. You know, it's 5, 10K, 15K, but you've got access to 240 million homes with that. You've got thousands, tens of thousands of downloads of a mobile app with your content on it. You've got access to being on Roku and Amazon Prime and a whole bunch of other key core platforms. Imagine being a speaker and author. You got a best-selling Amazon bestseller, and you also have your own show or your own product, right? Your course, training, whatever, on Amazon Prime. The opportunity to get that in front of millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of active buyers. And then say, hey, come buy my book. It's just 2 clicks away. It's right here. The opportunity to use synchronicity to have each other for half an hour at a time, making a great presentation is just, it's next level. It's totally next level. Think about it this way. You're busy working on getting gigs as a speaker. And obviously right now with COVID, being able to get a speaking gig at a live event, good luck with that, right? It happens not thanks to COVID. Lots of other things go with that, right? So now you have the opportunity to go beyond that to online events. And online events, great. You get 500, 1,000, 7,000, 10,000, 100,000 people might be looking at it, but somebody else has to do a lot of work in order to get all those people there, right? What if you can get in front of 240 million homes? No, not all of them are going to be turned on to your channel at the time that your show is on. But imagine you're in their homes. You're on their TV screens. You can't tell me that's not a fantastic opportunity to get your message in their heads and grow your business as a result of it. That's a ridiculous opportunity that takes that whole speaking gig to a whole other level. Am I to speak? Am I in this to share my knowledge, my expertise with other people in a way that they can package it, or that it can be packaged, it can be sold, it can be leveraged, it can be used? Or am I suffering from imposter syndrome? Do I not really believe in myself that much? Are there really not that many problems I can help with? Do you really believe that about yourself? Do you know that you actually have something that's worthwhile? I think we all know we have something worthwhile. I don't know that we necessarily believe it when it comes time to selling it. I think that the sales process intimidates people. I think there are lots of things about selling that intimidate people. But those are solvable problems. Because when you're on stage and you're feeling it and you're doing what you got to do, as a speaker, that's where your energy is. If I can get you in front of hundreds of millions of homes, that's a whole other level that very few speakers ever get a chance to do. And I can do it pretty much impunity. Question is that something that's important to you? Is that something that would dramatically change your business? How many speaking gigs, how many training gigs, how many implementations, how many info products, how many books, how many webinars, how many of what you do would that do to your business? It's a question you got to ask, and it's a question you got to answer. But when you do, come talk to me. Cheers for now. I'm Chris Kerr. Have a great rest of your day.